Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earle Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earle Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earle Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union.
By Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Harris Chevrolet with George Gully. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden concert series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. And by Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, family owned and operated for more than 40 years. And brought to you by High-Low Commercial Services. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earle Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome to the show. Today we're not at Lansky's or the Peabody. We're at Rob and Beth Schaefer's condominium in the River Tower. It used to be the old Rivermont Holiday Inn. That is an iconic building down here on the river, and they've got a beautiful condo here. And Rob was feeling kind of under the weather. I'm still not over this stuff I had. So I said, let's just do it from your place. And he went, thumbs up. So that's why we're going to be zooming today to Seattle, to Phillip Rauls, who is a native Memphian. It was in the record business and a big part of a lot of music history here in Memphis from the 70s to the 80s. Moved out to Seattle a number of years ago and is firmly entrenched out there, living on the Sound and in beautiful country out there, and has been enjoying his life out there ever since with his lovely wife, who I got to chat with a little bit yesterday. Philip and I stayed in touch, and he's been a big fan of the show for a number of years. I had him on my radio show. But this is much better because we will show a lot of what his life was like in the recording industry and promoting records. Let's kind of start at the beginning. Did you have any thoughts of going into the music business at all here in Memphis? You were like right out of college, or?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on again.
Sure.
I'm a fan of your show, and your question is, I went to Treadwell High School. And there was a band in Treadwell, all members of Treadwell High School, and they were called the Gentrys.
Sure.
And when they got a hit record in 1965, it went to number 3 in Billboard chart, produced by the legendary Chips Moman.
Sure.
Well, I was best friends with Jimmy Hart, and Jimmy got me in the band. Larry and I clicked immediately, and they needed a road manager, someone to drive the wagon, pack the equipment and steal Holiday Inn towels. And I really had a sophisticated job.
Well, and that's the thing about it back then. What was there to steal from a motel, They say they wrecked the room. There were cheap chairs, a dresser that was bolted to the wall, So, but people's concept then of what it was like is really amazing because, you sit and look at from a distance. You're not in the business, and I was in television my whole career and did radio, but I never was in a place where we had promoters like you coming through, working for a record label. We knew you existed, but you were at that next echelon. But you started out, you answered an ad for something, just pulling records to send to radio stations to promote those records, correct?
That's correct. I was asked to be the manager when I left the Gentrys of a girl trio. Girl trios were the big thing at the time, the Supremes and Shirelles and so forth and so on. And they asked me to, they were a Messick high school group, and they asked me to be their manager. And I said, I accepted it, but they didn't have a band. And I was going out looking for musicians to play behind them when they won a talent contest. And the winner of the talent contest got a free recording deal at Stax Records.
I'm sorry. I just turned my phone on to show. And
what are you doing, man?
I made a mistake. and I can't get it to turn down. Okay, now we're down. I do that just to make sure we are going out to the world, so we are.
Yeah, back to the girls. They signed a recording contract with Stax Records because they won that talent contest, and they were called the Goodies. And when they signed to Stax, one of the girls told Jim Stewart about me. I was their manager, and he wanted to set up a lunch with me to make things that are clear between management and Stax. So when I met him at Poncho's there on Union Avenue for the luncheon, I walked in and he was in there, and Steve Cropper was with him. I'd never met Steve or Jim, and we talked for about an hour, hour and a half. And he said, "How would you like to become promotion man for Stax?" And I go, "Promotion man? What's a promotion man?" I didn't have any idea. But long story short, for your viewers and listeners, a promotion man is a media lobbyist. And by that, I mean he uses his personality to get him inside a radio station or a newspaper critic or a TV critic and get on the good terms with them where he can get the trust and build, and then bring the records to them. And then in turn, they turn around and they play it or promote it or write about it.
And so, because I saw a picture, we're going to show a lot of pictures here in a minute, but there's one of you, and there was you were hanging 45s in their little sleeves on these pegs, and those are all going out. You had a peg, I guess, for FM100, a peg for, all the stations that you promoted, and you distributed all these records, and that was kind of one of the ongoing things. Then also trying to get your foot in the door, meet them, take them to lunch, because you wanted them to play your records, correct?
Correct. That's absolutely correct. Well, we did a weekly mailer, and we would do the mailer on a Friday so we could call them on a Monday on the telephone with Little Rock, Nashville, Bowling Green, Greenville, Mississippi, Pine Bluff, so forth. And then you would tell them about the record. Every record had to have some verbal communication to the program director or the music director. And then on Tuesday, you would call them back and see if they had added it to their playlist. And this was a weekly event. So thanks for bringing that picture up, because that's me mailing those records out and putting them on those pegs. That was just part of the due process.
But did you ever then dream that it would lead to all the things that you encountered in life being in the record business, including with going to work for Atlantic Records, which I've always wondered, were they based in L.A., Atlantic Records?
No, Atlantic was distributing Stax Records.
Ah, okay.
So there was a connection between Atlantic and Stax, and I got on Atlantic's radar because of that, because I was getting Stax records played. And then Atlantic and Stax had a distribution split. And when they split, they offered me a job to work for them as a regional promoter. Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, Austin, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, New Orleans, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Little Rock, Memphis. And that's when I started traveling, living in a suitcase. And it was a good opportunity in my life because I was single. I didn't have anything holding me back. So I ate, sleep, and I lived the record business.
In the era you were in, because it really kind of began, I graduated from high school in 1969, but all those groups that you promoted all came out about that same time. And so the stuff I listened to in college, and we're going to start the picture tour here now, were all people that we all grew up with. I mean, it's almost like Leave It to Beaver, that was just our era. So this is some of the photographs. We'll begin with Greetings from Memphis. And you were here back in the day. You got the Memphis Queen there, but they tied up along. There's a whole walkway or a a pier that all these people lived in houseboats down there when I first got here, which I thought was pretty cool.
This is down on Wolf River. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Marquees. I mean, all these names you're going to see here. Keep on Dancing, the Gentrys. That was their huge hit. And in fact, we had on Jimmy Hart on the show here a few months ago. I think you saw that. And he was talking about how that took off, and you guys are, all of a sudden you're rock and roll people going all over the country.
That's so true. The Gentrys, when they flew to destinations, they opened for Dave Clark 5. They opened for the Real McCoys. They opened for so many different bands, the Beach Boys. So they were number 3 song in the country. They did American Bandstand, all the TV shows. And listen to this. When the Gentrys went to Hollywood to play at the Whiskey A Go-Go, you'll never guess who opened their show at the Whiskey in Hollywood.
Who?
The Buffalo Springfield opened for the Gentrys. Stephen Stills Group.
Wow, that's incredible.
What a story that is.
Well, the whole thing is, and here's a picture of the guys. Larry Raspberry in the black suit there has had some health problems. I was sad to hear the other day, but he came back here and loved Memphis, but been out in L.A. forever. But would come back here for the Italian Fest every year, and he's very popular here and always will be. But that was a great era. I mean, one of the garage bands, which were huge back then. And you don't even hear about anybody do anything like a garage band anymore. Just a bunch of neighborhood guys getting together.
That's right. Well, you had mentioned earlier, like it was during the era of the Box Tops. We did a lot of gigs with Randy and the Radiants. The Counts had bands. We played at the YMCA's, CYOs, and it was a magic period. It was after the Elvis period was over, and it was when the Beatles, the London invasion was coming to the States.
Here's a picture of you at a barbecue place. Who's that with you? Is that Larry?
That's Larry. Yeah, that's Larry.
He was so young then. So were you.
I just got a camera, and I set it on a tripod on a timer at the table across from me. And remember when those old Coke bottles looked like that?
And they were green too. Remember that?
That's right, they were. Look how much a barbecue plate was.
85 cents for the plate. For the plate.
That's
unbelievable. Right. And who do we have here?
That's Larry too.
Is that Larry too?
Yeah, he and I.
And American Sound Studio, which is so many great hits came out of American Sound.
Yeah, that was a magic place. They were over on Thomas and Chelsea, maybe. I can't recall now, but a lot of people recorded there. That was Chips Moman's studio that he cut so many great artists there.
Well, then Chips went to, Nashville? And was there for a number of years. Then he came back.
He went to Atlanta after he left Memphis, but then he relocated in Nashville and got together with Willie and Waylon and Chris Christopherson, and they made music there. But Chips is an excellent producer.
Well, he did so many great hits. He did the class of '54 that brought everybody back here, and had 3 Alarm Studios, which he worked a deal with the city, and somehow they screwed him. And which was, another deal. But he was always very nice to me. And Dusty Springfield, she recorded at American as well?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people had no idea that people like that were coming to Memphis. And the same thing with Stax. And this was such a mecca for making music. As you said earlier, you had Detroit, you had, Memphis, of course, and Nashville, Austin, all these places had their time, but all these different records were coming out and being made in Memphis at the same time. I mean, everybody was so busy doing their thing, they didn't really interact with each other. Like you think, well, you're from Memphis, you guys are hanging out all the time.
Well, it was a magic period. There was Willie Mitchell and Steve Cropper and a lot of producers that had magic in their hands. They could turn the dials and get it. But it started in the late 60s and went through the late 70s. And Memphis put out a lot of music. B.J. Thomas, Elvis Presley cut it recording studio at American. A lot of who else? I can't think. A lot of Memphis artists cut there.
Box Tops, yeah. Thomas Boggs, who was with the Box Tops. Then, of course, Otis Redding, who had his own stamp. Was that after he died, or was that? Yes,
it was. It was a memorial stamp, U.S. stamp. Remember when postage was 29 cents?
Yeah. Now it's $1,000 a stamp, and you can't get them, or we're out. Otis Redding was the people I've talked to that knew him said he was on his way up, and he knew how he wanted to have his own brand. He wanted to produce his own stuff. He orchestrated it, wrote it. I mean, he was incredible. And then the plane crash, and it was over.
Yeah, Steve Cropper had a lot to do with his success. Steve co-wrote Dock of the Bay, and my goodness, I was hoping we could talk about Steve Cropper as well, but now might be the opportunity. But Earl, I wish someone in Memphis, a commission in Memphis, or someone would consider. They have W.C. Handy statue, they have an Elvis Presley statue. Steve Cropper needs a statue somewhere, somehow, because that man did so much for this city.
We've got a picture of the Elvis statue that was done coming up here in a minute, but you're right. He was a huge contributor to Memphis. Of course, so many people know him from the Blues Brothers, the movie, because he was in that. And but there, in this one, Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Arthur Conley, Booker T. and the MGs. One of the first groups from Memphis, other than B.B. King, that I fell in love with was Booker T. and the MGs. They came out with Time is Tight and Green Onions when I was a freshman in college. And every radio station you turned on, those songs were playing. And back then, think of that, those were instrumentals. You never hear instrumentals anymore. Which is Herb Albert. I mean, all those songs, Carlos Santana, and although they're very vocal too, but it's just I enjoyed the instrumentals because it was great music.
Willie Mitchell as well. The Willie Mitchell trio was on High Records, and of course he was a Memphian too.
Yeah. Well, Willie, his son Boo Mitchell, is the one that did Uptown Funk, and with Bruno Mars, had him on recently as well, and he was telling me the story about how that the Beatles actually came to Memphis before they began their U.S. tour. Have you ever heard this story?
I heard they were going to record at Stax. Maybe that's what you're leading to.
They went to Royal, Willie Mitchell's studio, because they wanted to rehearse and be here and kind of soak up some of Americana before they actually came back on their tour. Coming to New York, the big splash, getting off the airplane, Ed Sullivan. And so they did rehearsals for about a week at Royal Studio, and they all wrote their name on the wall in the back of the studio.
Oh, out.
And so, which is what they do at the Orpheum. They do it a lot of places, because it's kind of leaving a little bit of history. And so a number of years later, they were painting the studio, and Willie goes, told Boo, he said, go back and make sure those painters don't paint over those boys' names. Those boys being the Beatles. And he came back and said, Dad, it's too late. They painted over
the my goodness.
And
story.
There's another great story, too. I was just telling Ron Olson this one the other day about when the Beatles landed in Walnut, Arkansas. Their manager owned a farm in Missouri. And there wasn't an airport that was big enough for this twin-engine Beach Bonanza to land at, except for this former military airstrip in Walnut, Arkansas. And they were going to land there, get some cars, and drive to Missouri, which I've seen pictures of the Beatles when they were there out on this farm wearing cowboy hats and have a six-shooter riding horses. So they landed there in Walnut, unbeknownst to anybody, except the police, because they said, we're going to be landing here, and this is who we are. So they land, and these people see them out there. They go, man, it's the Beatles. And they left their plane there. So we're going to stay here. And so there are like 20,000 people at this little airport because they knew the Beatles were coming back there. So here the Beatles drive back up to their airplane. They can't even get to the airplane. There's so many people. So,
oh my goodness!
And they do an annual festival there in Walnut. The day the Beatles came to Walnut, Arkansas. But did you realize, though, even with all these people you were meeting, they were new artists. So you really didn't know the impact they were going to have on the history of music in the world.
Well, the key to the issue is getting the record on the air. That's where the promotion man comes in with the program director or the music director. Now, the next phase was what they were calling on the request line and asking them to play, because that's what would generate record sales. and that's where the business started going from 45 RPM singles and cassettes to LPs, 33 RPM LPs, going from 8 tracks, to cassettes and singles to LPs. But the business just went through the roof. It was last of the big gold mine business, and Memphis was a part of that during that cycle.
Unless I'm mistaken, wasn't Memphis and FM 100 specifically that first started paying LPs?
Well, here's a story for you and your listeners and your viewers. FM 100 used to be owned and programmed by Holiday Inn, Kimmons Wilson's Holiday Inn.
I did not know that.
Let me take that. Scripps Howard owned it, but he sponsored a midnight show that came on at midnight and it went to 6 a.m. in the morning on FM 100 called the Dolly Holiday Show. And it was nothing but easy listening music. And in those days, FM radio, they played cooking shows or all talk shows or.
Because not everybody had an FM, especially in their cars.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And when FM 100 went to rock music, it just started a whole new generation. Keep in mind, they were 400,000 watts.
Yeah.
That's 200,000 vertical and 2,100 horizontal. So FM radio can climb a mountain, whereas AM can't.
Straight
AM
line.
comes and hits, and FM will climb the mountain and come down the backside. So the FM 100 was being listened to all the way up the Mississippi River Valley, and a 50,000 watt was 500,000 watt was. Those are powerhouses.
Plus, there wasn't really a place for artists to go and appear, come on the show and introduce them. And so they said that FM 100 in the United States is one place, if you were an up-and-coming group, you had to go make an appearance on FM 100.
So true. I took so many artists there. Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Robert Palmer. I was going to take Led Zeppelin there, but their manager, Peter Grant, said, Rubbish, they ain't doing any interviews with anybody, nobody. So I missed my chance, and I think I made a few enemies at FM 100 when I had to cancel the interviews that I had set up. But those were the days.
Here's a shot. Just in your office, you're calling radio stations, and there are the Beatles on the wall right there with you. And then this is FM 100 reaching out and touching you.
The original staff.
Wow. Said Ron Michaels, the long-haired guy on the end of the row with the white pants?
Greg Hamilton, David Gingold, John Scott, and Mike Powell.
Wow. And they were history makers, and of course, there's only one guy that's got a dome like that, and we know who Isaac Hayes. Interesting story about Isaac Lansky's, where we do the show from normally. Bernard Lansky would these guys would come in and they say, "Mr. Lansky, we got a gig," but like they told me, and Bernard told me this story. Isaac comes in, he's got his shoe roped together because the sole was flopping when he was walking. And he said, Mr. Lansky, I got to have some clothes. I got a gig, and I can pay you right back, but I can't afford to pay you now. And so Bernard started this kind of a, not a layaway, this is a walk away. You get the clothes, you can walk away and come back later and pay for it.
Sure.
And he did that for the guy that did A Little Red Riding Hood. Sam the Sham. Sam Samuto is his real name, who's a very nice man. I got to interview him for the video I did for Bernard. And he said that he did that for all these artists. And somebody said, how'd you get the clothes? He go, well, here's the deal. And so they all started going there for the same deal. This is Booker T set, Booker T and the MGs. Somebody told me they were just like the house band, basically.
They were the house band. And keep in mind, in those days, bands weren't integrated. This was unheard of, and they were breakthrough artists. The Beatles, as you mentioned earlier, they even went to their show when they did that Stax tour through UK and in Great Britain. But there's another group. They're all gone now, unfortunately. Duck Down Al. No, yeah. Booker's still alive. Pardon me. Booker T. Jones.
Yeah. fact,
Al
he was
Jackson.
at the Memphis Music Hall of Fame Awards last year, I think.
That's right. That's right.
And Jim Stewart, he was the main guy at Stax, right?
He was a co-founder. He and his sister, Estelle Axton, Estelle mortgaged her house to lease the property there where the old Royal Theater is.
Mm-hmm. And then Memphis Soul Stew, King Curtis, the Assembled Multitude. Who are these? Overture
That's me in the upper left-hand corner with the trumpet. Assembled Multitude put out a song called Overture from Tommy. And I was in New York at the New York, their offices were on 1841 Broadway in Manhattan. And I walked in the office and they pulled me in the recording studio at Atlantic and said they wanted to take a picture because they had bought a master on this group that cut Overture from Tommy. And it was a studio group. So they needed to get people in the studio to make it look like it was a real group. And that was on the cover of the album. And
wow.
Those are all famous employees. Those are all famous employees of Atlantic. And in the back, you see on the wall, there's Nestle Ergen, Ahmet Ergen, and Jerry Wexler, the three CEOs of the company.
Wow. So you were a fake band.
We were a fake band.
Congratulations. Well, okay. And then Aretha Franklin, who's from Memphis. And interesting story about her. She came and performed at the Memphis Music Fest one year. And so the woman that was in charge of, doing anything with the stars, because I asked her one time, I said, what are some unusual things that they ask for you? No M&Ms, but no brown ones, that kind of stuff. And she said, well, the one interesting one was Aretha Franklin. She said, do you want anything special to eat or drink? And she said, no, I'm fine. No, wait a minute. I would like a barbecue pizza from Coletta's and pink lemonade. And I said, okay.
Yeah, good taste.
Yeah. So they went and got it, but she said she was just a delight. Sadly, Aretha got to where she just wouldn't fly. She was supposed to have come here several years ago and was booked. And at the last minute, she said, I don't want to fly. So Cream, I remember this album cover, which is really, in so many ways, it was like going to Blockbuster years ago. You went and looked at the covers, the movies, and picked what you wanted to watch from whatever image was on the outside of the videotape. But record albums was a huge business.
Absolutely.
The artwork.
And you would stare at the album as you played it on the turntable, and real creative art, as you can see from there. That was coming out of a new generation of artists and album cover artists, and I bought many of the album because of the cover.
Yeah,
people, you don't buy an album for a cover. I said, I do.
And people would lean the album up against the wall, or even put them on their walls because that was like it was art. And
well, in my garage, I have album covers in my garage nailed to the wall.
Who is this here?
That's Eric Clapton, and that's Patty Harrison, George's ex-wife. Eric Clapton. I think they end up getting married, but that's another story.
There's a million of them. And here is Eric Clapton.
I worked that album. Mm-hmm. Promoted all these on Atlantic.
Led Zeppelin's first album. I mean, every one of these groups where they would come out with these albums, you'd go, I've never heard music like this before. It was like they were totally different from each other. Nobody really followed anybody.
Well, listen to this. There's a new documentary on Led Zeppelin called Becoming Led Zeppelin that I was interviewed for and involved with. But I went to the grand opening in Hollywood, and I actually got the chance to walk the red carpet into the documentary film premiere.
Wow.
And it's one of the biggest things I ever did in my life. Can you get recognized elsewhere?
And then WHBQ Big 30, was that their 30th anniversary or what?
No, Top 30 Records.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they only charted 30 records in those days. Later it became Top 40.
Yeah.
But in those days they just listed 30 records.
And then here's Led Zeppelin.
Second album.
Second album, number Dos. And then you were actually on stage here with them.
Stage with
That must have been amazing. The closest you'll ever get to being a rock star, right?
Well, I worked with them a bunch. I did several tours with them. I didn't fly on the same plane with them, but I did tours. And this was July the 4th at the 1969 Atlanta International Pop Music Festival. And they started in the afternoon and played way into the evening. But I got some classic pictures from that event.
Well, everybody was in good shape back then, I see. And then the Atlanta International Pop Festival, that was huge. People still talk about that, and that's how big a part of music history the Atlanta Pop Festival was.
Believe it or not, there wasn't anyone there with cameras other than me. Everyone had Brownie cameras, if you remember those box cameras.
Yeah.
But I had a Yashica 35 millimeter, and I was surprised that no one covered it in depth like I did. Many of the photographs that I took there have been in various documentaries, books, and so forth and so on. And it kind of gave me my notoriety in photography by being at that event and capturing.
And actually having a camera there. Because we don't think of it today because everybody has cell phones and great capabilities with them, stills, movies, and we have them with us all the time. All the years I was in television, interviewed all these great people, and I had it on tape, but not like there was no pictures of me putting my arm around somebody saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And which is regretful because there were a lot of cool people. I never did feel easy about asking for. I never asked anybody for an autograph,
Yeah.
And who is this on stage?
That's Delaney and Bonnie. Their first album was on Stax Records, and Don Nix and Duck Dunn produced their album.
Wow.
They went on and became international stars, and that was also at the Pop Festival, and they were great.
Look at that
Blue-eyed soul band.
Look at the amps behind them. I mean, it's like a suitcase size as opposed to what they do today. And Johnny Winter, he was an amazing guy.
He was amazing. He was one of my favorite. He would glow in the dark.
Because he was so white?
He was albino.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He was so white.
He had pink skin. He had pink skin.
Wow. His parents probably said, what is this guy going to do? Rock and roll. And then the Allman Brothers Band. This is an interesting story. My father comes home, and he brings this Live at the Fillmore album home.
Woo.
And he goes, you're not going to believe this album. I'm going. My dad was always listening to, Benny Goodman and, Glenn Miller.
Barry Como, yep. Mm-hmm.
He brings us, and it had the picture of all their equipment, says the Allman Brothers, and it's all their amps and equipment all piled up. And I thought, well, what's it about? He goes, just listen. And the very first cut, I went, that is amazing.
That is amazing.
Got to see Greg Allman for the last time a couple of years ago, right before he died. I mean, he died like weeks after he was here in Memphis. Because I remember they took a break for him to go off to drink Gatorade and stuff to get some fluid in him because he didn't exactly live an exemplary life, And so, but he was.
I did a number of shows with the Allman Brothers. I'm glad your dad turned you on to that. When the Allman Brothers played the New Orleans Warehouse, guess who opened their show for them?
Who?
A three-piece power trio from Memphis called Alamo.
Alamo.
Larry Raspberry, Ken Woodley, and Richard Rosenborough. And they opened for the Allman Brothers in New Orleans at the Warehouse.
Wow. This is Capricorn Records co-founder Phil Walden, the guy in the cut-off jeans. You said he looked like a movie star. He was that nice looking.
Look at those pants he's got on. Earle.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Well, they were the male version of the Daisy Duke. Derek and the Dominoes. You got to remember listening to those.
Yeah, I worked that record. It's said that Derek and the Dominoes album, which you have on the screen now, Layla, was the most influential rock song of all times. And it was co-written by a Memphian by the name of Bobby Whitlock.
Wow. I remember Layla. I mean, it was just Layla. and it was an instant hit. And you sit there, and when you look back on it, you say, what was it about that album that just broke through?
Well, it was Dwayne Allman played on that
So
sound.
that could do it.
Dwayne Allman and Eric Clapton on one album together. Come on.
Yeah, but it was great. Then Woodstock, which was a huge. I remember I was at the University of Texas, and they said, "Hey, you going to Woodstock?" I said, "What the hell is Woodstock?" And they said, "It's going to be this big, huge music festival in upstate New York." I said, "I can't go to upstate New York, man." I said, "I got no money." They said, "Nobody has any money. We're all chipping in and just getting in cars, and we're going. Come on, let's do it." I had two jobs there in Austin, so I said, "I can't, man." They all went. And the stories they came back with, and I thought, that didn't happen. And they said over 1 million people were there.
That's true.
And no facilities. They had, if you didn't bring it, it wasn't there. And the guys that put it on and shot the video, which I'm sure you've seen many times, I have.
Well, it was on Atlantic, the album and the soundtrack, and the video was on Warner Brothers, which was part of Atlantic. Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just saying that the whole thing was a moneymaker for them. They weren't doing it to create music history. They thought they were going to make a fortune. And so they booked all these people, and I don't know if you've seen how much they paid, like Carlos Santana and Jimi Hendrix. We're talking hundreds of dollars, hundreds. But they got them all to come there, and it was 2 or 3 days. 3 days. That's right there on the poster. And it was just an incredible history-making event in so many different ways. But there never was another one quite like that, like Woodstock. And they thought they would be, but they didn't make any money, not off the movie, not off the admission. Hell, nobody paid to get in, you know.
Well, I heard at Woodstock, it was so big, as you said earlier, 1 million people. I heard there were several babies born at the festival.
At the event.
Think about that.
Yeah. I'm a Woodstock baby. Here's an album cover everybody owned this album.
Woo! My goodness, yes.
And did you get to tour with them? Did you meet them?
I toured with Stephen Stills, the guy in the middle sitting down. Now, some of these tours that were on Atlantic, again, I was an employee of Atlantic. I worked the record. Some of these tours, I optioned not to go on the road with the group because a lot of them were nothing but just traveling circuses.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the people backstage, they were just clinger owners and so forth. And if they didn't want to go to a radio station, do a newspaper.
What any reason for you to be there?
What's no reason for me to be there? Exactly right.
And I can imagine it was kind of like Carney's because you get the crew that comes in, sets everything up, tears everything down, and they're not making any money, and they're sleeping in their cars and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't as glamorous as it wasn't the Beatles with every group.
Good point.
And who is this?
That's on the road with Stephen Stills
Okay.
when he had a group called Manassas.
I remember Manassas.
They did 3 albums on Atlantic, and he was a pleasure to work with. I did 2 or 3 Southern tours with him, and I have extension photographs of those tours.
And then here's Stephen Stills again, playing in the snow with a
Love
giraffe.
the one with. Yeah. Mhm.
How did they put that together? We'll put a giraffe in there.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was shot by famous photographer. His name I'll draw a blank at the moment, but he did a bunch of album covers for Atlantic.
And then here's Stephen Stills, Paul Harris, Fuzzy Samuels, Perkins, and Layla. And there's Manassas you were talking about just a minute ago. But here again, it was interracial, and
Yes, it was.
It was. And the thing I've always heard about Stax was, and the other studios here, nobody that were musicians ever thought in racial terms about anything. It was just this guy can play or this guy can sing, and that's.
Absolutely.
I can't tell who is this. Stephen Stills again.
It's Stephen Stills. That's Chris Hillman in Manassas. Chris played with the Byrds, Mr. Tambourine Man, if you remember all those
Sure,
songs.
yeah.
He also was one of the co-founders of the Flying Burrito Brothers, and he was a wonderful person. I really like Chris, and most recently, I have a picture in his new book that I think it's the next picture up. Maybe
Let's see.
No.
Close to the Edge, yes.
There's John Anderson. I was on the road with Yes. There's a private jet we flew in. John, I asked him, could I take a picture of him, John Anderson? He says, it looks like a good day for flying. I snapped this picture right there.
Well, those must have been some interesting flights. This is at a radio station, it looks like.
This is WRNO FM in New Orleans. That's Rick Wakeman behind the microphone. Humble Hugh Dillard was a DJ, and standing behind Rick Wakeman is Brian Lane, the manager, and that's me with my arm on the wall. And I had a friend take it with my camera.
Because you were the only one that had a camera.
Absolutely.
And Yes, and the Eagles.
Did that tour, and I can't tell you about it. it's too parental guided.
Yeah. You had to sign a non-disclosure.
That's right.
Rod Olson and Vicky, they just went to the Sphere in Las Vegas for the Eagles show. They said that was absolutely incredible.
Wow, I bet.
And who is this?
That is Chris Squire. Look how skinny he is. Skinny as a rail. He's a bass player in Yes, co-founder of Yes, and I think he's probably one of the top 3 bass players ever in rock and roll. He was a good guy. His nickname was Fishy because he was a Pisces.
So he was fishing. Yeah, I remember when everybody used to say, "What sign are you?"
What
What are you talking about?
Exactly. Oh, are you into that stuff?
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, great group. There they are.
Did a bunch of tours with them.
There they are again.
As a matter of fact, I did a party there at the Rivermont in the suite upstairs with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and we had all celebrities from Memphis come up. Jerry Lawler came up. All the FM 100 disc jockeys came up. And it was right there at the suite upstairs at the Rivermont.
Where we're broadcasting from today.
That's true.
Yeah. A lot of history made here. And this is obviously on a plane going someplace.
Yeah, I was on tour with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This was on the plane. Greg Lake and his manager, Emerson Lake's manager, I showed him the copy of Rolling Stone with a full-page ad of their Trilogy album. And they hadn't seen it up to that point, and they're both giving me a thumbs up like, wow, that's cool.
It was cool. Jackson Brown. And of course, the Eagles again. It's just a distinct look back then because he went from the Beach Boys look to long hair, beards, bell bottoms, and all of that. Then Eagles Don Henley and Asylum Records founder David Giffen.
Giffen. Mm-hmm.
Come on. If you touch the screen, it'll do that thing where it separates the image, and so you can isolate it. But I got it back.
That's Criteria Recording Studio. I worked out of a satellite office there in Miami at the studio. All the Atlantic artists were going to Miami to record, and they were shutting down the Atlantic studio in New York on Broadway, and they were all coming to Miami. So many of the artists that came there, I would take them deep sea fishing on their day off, and what a magic time.
Miami was an incredible city. And this, speaking of deep sea fishing, what is that, a shark?
That's a shark. And see that big hole in the head of the shark?
Yes, I do.
That was the pilot, the boat captain. When I pulled it up on the reel, we were fishing with a reel. What do you call it? Reel?
Rod reel.
And when he pulled up to the side of the boat captain came, cut the motor off, and went down and put a shotgun hole, pulled a shotgun and blew a hole in the shark's head. What did you do that for? He said, man, you don't want to pull that thing on board with us.
He's got a mouth on him.
You want to get rid of him. So we carried him into shore like that. When we got to the shore, I was proud of it. And I had to have a picture of the shark I caught. I caught that. And, well, look at the clothes in those days. My goodness.
I know. Bell bottoms look like he got hush puppies on. And the plaid shirt, you got long hair.
I got hair to my shoulders. And Eric Clapton lived in Miami for a while at Jerry Wexler's house, and that was a photo taken of that album that came out on Atlantic.
And of course, the Stones, the lips and the tongue image, which is closely
Andy Warhol.
associated. Yes. Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, you think about an enduring band. Who else has been together, all of them, for all these years and still performing? He's 80-something years old.
My goodness.
And the last time I saw him here was at the Pyramid. And they used to always go to the Rendezvous, either the night before or the night of or after.
Exactly.
And Nick Burgess told me, he said that in the early days, because whenever they came to Memphis, they went to the Rendezvous, and they would take over the whole place. And he said that back then they were drinking champagne and Jägermeister and, just a big party. As the years went by, they all switched to Perrier and lime, and it was their kids that were drinking and drinking Cristal and having the big party. And they all said, in order to keep going, we have to take vitamins and eat right now. And so they still kept going to the Rendezvous, though.
Listen to this. When the Rolling Stones played the Liberty Bowl in Memphis there at the Liberty Bowl, they were going to ride into the Liberty Bowl on the back of elephants. So you've seen that train track that runs down alongside the Liberty Bowl. They were going to train the elephants in and then bring them in through the stage door, and they were going to get on the back and ride into the Liberty Bowl. But the city of Memphis wouldn't allow it after it was all planned. And the elephants actually got to the train line there at the Liberty Bowl, but they wouldn't let them off because it violated some city ordinance of some type. But they played at the Liberty Bowl, and guess who opened up for the Liberty Bowl for the Rolling Stones?
Who?
Furry Lewis, Memphian Furry Lewis.
Wow. I did get to ride an elephant with the circus from the Frisco freight yards, but that may have been why we did it from the freight yards. Rode an elephant from there down the airways to the fairgrounds because the circus.
Oh, you're kidding.
Now, the interesting thing was I didn't know anything about elephants. I grew up in West Texas. There were none. Elephants have a very distinct odor to them.
Ooh.
And I remember I had this khaki shirt that I loved. It had the kind of epaulets on the shoulder. And I had that in jeans and boots on. And elephants don't sweat. So the way they cool themselves off is they're walking along, they see some water, they suck it up, and they spray it over their head.
Oh.
And whoever's sitting on the elephant gets sprayed too.
It's a shower.
Never could get the smell of elephant out of those clothes.
My good story.
Keith Sykes, what a great Memphian and artist.
He's a lovely man. He was my next door neighbor.
Wow.
Going through high school. He came down here from Kentucky, and we oriented him with Memphis music because he was singing all this Kentucky music. But when I moved to Miami years later, he moved down there, and we got reacquainted.
Super guy, and it's really interesting. All these people, they've got the talent as teenagers, and that's when it really manifested that people either got it or you don't have it. And how many people they were so young, and all of a sudden they just take off on these incredible careers, but nobody ever knew who it was going to be next and how long will it last. Did they talk about that? How long is this thing going to last?
The magic thing was getting airplay. If you got airplay, your career was on board. You could book yourself anywhere from a Holiday Inn bar to the Whiskey A Go Go, the Warehouse in New Orleans. If you got airplay, it was going to open other doors.
So that's what they were mainly after, and that's where you came in, was getting them airplay. Vinegar Joe.
Don't tell them that, though.
Yeah, no, it was all them. I Shot the Sheriff. I remember when that one came out. And Bette Midler. Did you meet her? Did you get to spend some time?
I toured with them. I went to the Galleria Mall with her one day. She wanted to meet a millionaire Texan. So I took her to the Galleria Mall
in Houston.
And guess when she played those tours, guess who was her keyboard player?
Who?
Barry Manilow.
Oh, wow. That's before he hit it big. He started out doing jingles and commercials, the music for different commercials, and was very successful with that. I love this. This was in your book, which I'm going to show as soon as Rob shows that. And this is a book that you have a couple. You've got one there with you. Let me get this in the right frame.
Yeah, that's my coffee table book titled Phillipsburg. I took that photograph in Phillipsburg, Montana. And it's full of my artwork photographs that I took down through the years, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, in there, you got all kinds of, I liked it because it's very eclectic. It has stuff you did in your personal life and in the industry. But you've always been a fan of motorcycles. This was a compact scooter that you could get from Sears, and $259.
That's an actual commercial appeal ad for that scooter that I bought, and that's me and my cousin riding it. I inserted that photograph at the bottom of the TV ad.
I thought it was great.
Newspaper ads. Newspaper ad.
And
That's
here-
on the road with Yes. That's Fishy, the bass player and co-founder of Yes. And man, he was a wonderful guy. He left us a few years ago, and I was saddened to hear that.
And Chip's Moment again, and you, and who's the other fellow?
That's the general manager of WLAC in Nashville, Dick Kent, and that was at a gig in Nashville that Chips and Tony Joe White were doing.
Is that a Trader Dick's shirt
Yep,
on you're having?
I'm wearing a Trader Dick's t-shirt.
That was one of the first places I went in when I moved to Memphis in 1978.
What'd
and
you
I go
think?
in. I loved Memphis from the minute I got here because the people were totally different from Dallas. I mean, Dallas was very slick, and what do you do is the first thing we'd ask you is, what do you do for a living? Could you help me? Can I sell you something? And when I get to Memphis, I didn't care what you did or where you're from. Either they liked you or they didn't like you. But I walked in, and Rick Christian and the White Boys band was
Oh
playing.
my goodness!
And he was dog cussing everybody. And when he'd take a break, said, "You don't support Memphis music." And we're going, "Well, we're here. I don't know what else do you want us to do." But I went up and started talking to people at the bar, and they were all going, "Ooh." And I asked the bartender, said, "What is wrong with these people?" And he goes,
What's wrong with these people?
he said, "Are you new to Memphis?" And I said, "Like, this is normal." And I said, "Yeah, I just moved here." He said, "Well," he said, "those are quaaludes at work." And I went, I said, "Well, what's a quaalude?" And he goes, "You'll find out." And
You'll
because
find out.
it was a recreational drug. I don't know if it was a painkiller or what it was. But everybody had them. They was going, "You want a quaalude? You want to have a quaalude?" And I'm going, I don't know what that is. They said, "Well, look at that person because that's what that is." But it was Trader Dick's was a very unique place. It's now the Blue Monkey and has been for many, many years. And it kept it pretty much to look the same. But in the old days, the bar was in the middle, which I'd never seen before. It was a total circle. And then the band was up by the windows. And that place just rocked all the time.
Well, it was right next door to Ardent Recording Studio,
Yes.
and a lot of artists who would come into Ardent, like ZZ Top, they would come over to Trader Dick's and take have a beer. But Trader Dick's was owned by Memphian John King, who recently passed away as well. But he was also in the music business for years, and you'd be sitting there at night, and anybody would walk in there, anybody famous, because it was the best rock club in Memphis.
It was. The Arden, when all these people would come in, when I had my restaurant bar downtown, Sleep Out Louie's, Billy Gibbons was recording at Arden. And he would come in at like 2 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon to have lunch or breakfast, which it was. And he was the nicest guy. And we'd sit and just have long talks. And he's from Texas, and so we hit it off. And just a really great guy. This is a shot of you in Seattle, and you're laying on a rack of ribs on your grill.
Oh my goodness,
And
that is baby backs, and you can take the country out of the boy, but you can't take the. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. That's a tongue twister.
But the ribs or something. The things you miss about Memphis, being in Seattle, is it the food? Is it the people? I mean, are the people different in Seattle than they are in Memphis?
I think all the above. Memphis is a special place. I went to Memphis State for 2 years. I graduated from Treadville High School, and I was in the music business in Memphis for years. So naturally, it's a good place in my heart, and I'll always hold it.
And this is your wife, you and your wife.
It's my wife, Midori. We were on Money River. It's a river that runs through the mountains in Eastern Washington.
And
Bunny Creek. Go ahead.
And she was born and raised in Seattle. That's her home.
No. She's from Shiba, Japan. She's Japanese. She came here in '92, and we met in '98 and have been together ever since.
How did you meet?
We were neighbors in a condominium community. We met at the swimming pool.
Naturally.
When you see a little Japanese girl in a bikini bathing suit at the swimming pool, your eyes will pop out of your head.
And yours did. Well, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
This is you eating your ribs. But the difference is in Memphis, you probably would have had a beer or a scotch with your ribs. You're drinking a nice glass of wine in this one. So you become very refined. And here's you and your lovely wife again. And this picture I liked because it shows Capitol Records in the background, which was, I thought, that was very interesting because they made it like a stack of records.
They did. And I took that on a high rise on the other side of town. If you'll notice, that's the Hollywood Hills in the background.
Sign, yeah.
You'll see the Hollywood sign there. But I was really proud of that because that was before, I think that was about 1972, 73. It was before Hollywood grew up. And, that's a classic picture.
And then here you are with your son on a, what kind of motorcycle?
That's my Snorton Norton.
Norton.
And that's my son. We were riding over by the Buckeye plant on Jackson Avenue, if you know where that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, that's my camera, but Jareen Sykes took that photograph. And it was just an excellent picture. And
it is.
I'm glad you're showing it.
Yeah. This I love. The music business is full of sharks, barracudas, and piranhas. These people scare me sometimes. They make the boxing world look like a Sunday school class. Don King. And then here's an early picture of Beale Street. Well, early. It was the 70s after the 68th assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which really destroyed downtown. And people moved out of downtown. In fact, the Rendezvous was getting ready to move into a location on Beale Street when Dr. King was assassinated and we had the riots. They said, I think we'll just stay where we are because I think they felt safe there in that alley, downtown.
Yeah.
And when I got here in 78, the only thing that was still open was A. Schwab's. It was a hawk shop right across the street from A. Schwab's.
Yep.
And then Lansky's. Lansky's was still there. And
well, in that picture, you can see the A. Schwab logo.
Sign. Yeah.
There,
and there's the loan shot that I was just talking about right across the street.
I took that in Jim Stewart's car through his windshield.
Wow. This shot is really interesting to me. It's you and Ron Olson on a tank on Madison Avenue.
There's a story behind that one.
Well, I talked to Olson about today. I said, did you even know what you were there for? He said, I think it was some kind of a movie or music from a movie and it was about a tank.
No, it was at the time I worked for 20th Century Fox Records. And we were an affiliate of 20th Century Fox Movies. So there's a movie that came out called All This in World War II. And it had a soundtrack, and the Jerry Swift over at the Ritz said he wanted to have a party, so we did a promotion around the party and the movie and the release of the album. And George Bryant was a program director at FM 100 at the time, and we all got in khakis and wore Army outfits and Army hats. And the press scimitar came out and was taking pictures of it, and that's a picture from the press scimitar of Moran and I on top of a tank.
What you don't see, and you were telling me this earlier, that there were actually 2 tanks and a half-track that were there. So you had a whole battalion of vehicles that showed up for it. And you said that the tanks left track marks on the pavement on Madison Avenue getting down to the venue.
That's right. The asphalt, it was hot, and the tanks were so heavy, it just tore up the streets, taking them back to the where they were parked for the Tennessee National Guard.
The Armory, I believe, is where they went back. But it was a great promotional. And here, of course, is our good friend George Klein. God bless him.
King of Kings.
One of the nicest people I've ever met, in or outside of entertainment world. If you called him, he would call you instantly back, or
Right.
if he took him more than 10 minutes, he was so apologetic about taking so long to get back to you. Very generous. Never did anything to try to make money off of Elvis's name, the history. He did his show here on the WYPL, the Library Channel, and the show's still on. And in fact, I was talking to somebody earlier this week about getting some of the clips of some of the interviews. You were on his show at one time, weren't you?
I think Dave Brown does it now. I could be wrong, but I was on the show, one of the last shows before George passed away, and it's still up on YouTube if anyone would like to see it.
We'll just go to the George Klein show and on YouTube.
Phillip Rauls interview Phillip Rauls interview on George Klein's show. Okay. You Google that and it'll pull up the YouTube video.
Well, maybe because I never got to see my appearance on there. So here you got a Triumph, which I always loved Triumphs. I thought they looked great, they sounded great, and but were they temperamental? Because that's what I always heard.
Oh man, they weighed a ton. They weighed more than a Harley Sportster.
Wow.
That was my last motorcycle I bought. I bought it on Father's Day. I had to get clearance with the boss, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And it was my first shaft drive. It had power brakes. It was just a monster. But when you turned a corner, you had to be very careful because it didn't drive or aim like a Japanese bike, which I was used to. And but yeah, I was really proud of that. That's a good photograph.
Gwen Smith, who's one of my good friends, is watching. She said Jerry Williams does it now with Leon Griffith and Amber Craven. So that's who's doing.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Gwen.
The GQ show. And here you are, which I love this picture. It's you sitting, I guess, in the room where you are right now.
I'm sitting there in the living room, and that's when bad TV was on during the coronavirus. So it was better looking at the sunset than it was the TV. But yeah, that's where I'm sitting right now.
And this is the last picture in this segment. That's an incredible statue that was made in the Brandywine Valley in Pennsylvania by this artist. And I actually went there and filmed it right as he was doing the final touches to it. And it was in his studio. And then they brought it back here and put it in. This is where this picture was taken at the MLG&W building. Excuse me. And people kept breaking the fringe off of his shirt.
Oh, really?
So that's why they moved it to the Welcoming Center next to the Pyramid, the Bass Pro. And it's there today with the great statue of B.B. King. But that is, I'm just sorry more Memphians don't get to see it because they don't go to the Welcoming Center. But it was a great place. But, you know, everybody wants a souvenir from Elvis. But I think that's one of the best art interpretations I've ever seen. And a great picture of you as well.
It is. I've got on a satin jacket, if you remember when those were popular. It's my Rolling Stones tour jacket, and it was satin. I love that thing.
Yeah, well, I didn't have one of those, so I'm very envious. We're talking with Phillip Rauls. We're going to take a break, come back, and we've got an interesting piece that he did at his home where all of his records and gold records and other memorabilia are. But it's also, I tell the story about George Harrison in his mansion in England. Somebody went there to work with him, and they said, "Where are all your gold records? Everybody I go to and see, they've got it all over the house." He said, "Oh, come on, I'll show you." And he walks down the main hallway of this big mansion, and opens the door to this big, huge bathroom. He said, "I keep them in the crapper to keep me grounded." Which I thought was an interesting perspective. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union at our new headquarters here in Collierville, Tennessee, off by Hellier Road. We are the proud presenting sponsor of the Earle Farrell For Memphis show and are looking forward to a great 2026 where some of the shows will be hosted from our new headquarters location here in Collierville.
Hello, Memphis, Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earle Farrell Memphis today. And we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carey Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25. And I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching, Earl, and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Mitch Wright.
And I'm his son, Mickey.
And we're the owners of Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And proud sponsors of the Earle Farrell from Memphis show.
We're thankful to be part of the Memphis community. We've been in business for 42 years, taking care of people and loving the people of the Mid-South.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis, or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earle Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
He doesn't sweat. He exudes cleanliness. He doesn't wear a hard hat. He wears a halo helmet of hygiene. He once found a Cheeto from 2003 and gave it a proper burial. His mop water is filtered through the tears of sloppy contractors. He uses Purell the way priests use holy water. He's banned from construction sites for making everyone else look filthy. His laundry folds itself out of respect. He was voted most likely to disinfect in high school. He showers before, after, and during showers. Even Mr. Clean calls him Sir.
I don't always drink, but when I do, I disinfect the glass first. Stay spotless, my friends.
And welcome back. We're talking with Phillip Rauls. He's in Seattle. We're in Memphis, not at the Lansky's where we normally are, but Rob and I were both feeling kind of under the weather, and so we decided to keep things simple today, do our Zoom with Phillip. And I can't believe I just look at my watch. We've been on for over an hour. That's how interesting this is. But we're enjoying it. It's like Rob said, it goes by quickly when it's really interesting. It's very insightful. You shot a video for us yesterday, and this is all these awards and mementos you have throughout your career. You have on the stairway to rock and roll, I guess you could call it.
Stairway to the Rock Trenches.
The Rock Trenches. In fact, that's the other book. Hold that up again so they can see that. Can they still get that?
Yeah, on Amazon, you can Google The Rock Trenches, and it's available in Kindle, paperback, as well as an Audible. And it's still selling to this day, I'm proud of.
Well, go check it out. In the meantime, let's look at this video. Rob, if you'll roll that.
Okay, here it is. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're about to go into the Stairway to the Rock Trenches. We're in the residence of Phillip Rauls in the greater Seattle area, and this is his memorabilia of collection of gold and platinum albums and photographs that he took. Here's one of Robert Palmer. You remember Robert Palmer. Right under there is a picture of Greg Lake of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I was on tour with him, showing him and his manager a Rolling Stone ad of the Trilogy album, and he's giving me a thumbs up. Oh, here's one. This is my favorite all-time picture I took in 1969 at the Atlanta International Pop Music Festival. And you may recognize those two. That's Jimmy Page with a hat on and Robert Palmer, Robert Plant, performing without any shoes or a shirt. Next we go over here, and this is Richard Marx's Platinum album. You see there. Underneath there is two of my favorite people, rock drummer from Yes and John Lennon, Alan White, and his beautiful wife Gigi. We come over here. There's another one of my favorite pictures on stage with Johnny Winter in 1969 at the Pop Fest. Here's two of my greatest buddies, Larry Raspberry, Don Nix. Here's me awarding Ron Olson a platinum album on Star Wars. We go down here, and this is one of my first gold records, giving to Mike Powell of FM 100 in Memphis. Next, we're going to turn around and go to the other side here. And this is platinum album on Queensryche, a Seattle band, and they're very popular. Under there is a photograph of the 35th reunion of Yes, and that's Alan White, John Anderson, me, Chris Squire, and Rick Wakeman. Over here is a Queensryche party we had, awarding them their albums. Here's Red Hot Chili Peppers. What's Flea doing there? I don't know. Next is one of my old buddies, George Klein. I did his TV show a couple of years back. You remember George Klein. Down here, this picture was in Chris Hillman's latest book. Chris Hillman on the left, Joe Lala, and Stephen Stills. And that was when they had, I was on tour with Manassas. Up here is the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Mother's Milk gold record. Go over here real quick. Another picture of them. Oh, here's two of my favorite, John Anderson and Steve Howe of Yes. And there's Huey Lewis. Next we come over here. Here's Jimmy Page on stage at the Atlanta Pop Festival. Here's Richard Marx multi-platinum album. We go down here. This is a jersey from the Warehouse in New Orleans. I went on tour with so many bands that played there, and all the bands that I toured with are listed there on the bottom as a part of the display. There's me and Corey Hart. Do you remember him? I wear my sunglasses at night. Flip over here, and here's a Pretty Woman soundtrack. You remember that? And above there is one of my favorite pictures I took on stage of Steve Cropper, my old buddy, the late Steve Cropper, and that's Booker T. Jones on keyboards behind him. Next over here, here's another picture of Corey Hart at a homemade bathing suit contest. There's me and Corey Hart again. Come down here is MC Hammer and Robbie Neville. They sang at a Mariners baseball game, and that's Robbie Neville second from the left and MC Hammer with his shirt off. And the guy standing next to MC Hammer on his left is the great Ken Griffey Jr. Now we swing over here. Here's pictures and more memorabilia. We go down here. We see a number of things here. Here's EMF, Gold and Platinum, Corey Hart again. Come over here. This is one of my favorite, all-time favorites, the Star Wars Platinum album. There's a press picture of Yes. And here's me doing a speech at a Queensryche event. Under there is Led Zeppelin Platinum album, the first album, if you remember that. Coming over here is the great Bobby McFerrin. You remember that big hit he had? Don't Worry, Be Happy. Above there is Emerson, Lake and Palmer's press picture. Over here, you remember this. This is the Eagles. I toured with the Eagles, and this is their platinum album. Over here, we have a Rolling Stones press picture. Here we have David Bowie's gold record. I worked on EMI. Under there, there's a good one. That's the Yes Fragile album, gold record on that. Come over here is the old Marquise, Don Nix. Down here next is Roxette, and below it is Pierre and Marie. Marie passed away a few years ago, the Swedish rock group that did You've Got the Look. Here we have some singles. If you remember what those look like, Peter McCann, Dan Hill. Also, here's another Robert Palmer album. And down here, I'm going to show you, this is a Stax basketball jersey. I played on the Stax basketball team, and all the albums that I worked for Stax are listed at the very bottom there, and this is a treasure. Over here, real quickly, more gold records, single albums, and here's me in New Orleans at a party for Led Zeppelin. That's me in the center. Bonzo is on the right, drummer from Led Zeppelin. There's my very first gold record, getting the Isaac Hayes Hot Buttered Soul. I hope you enjoyed this. We have more, but we're short of time. Thanks for viewing.
And welcome back. Great job, Philip. Give us a tour of your stairway. Does your wife have any memorabilia? I didn't see any of her pieces in there.
Well, she's won plenty of awards herself, and thanks for asking. The house is, our stairwell is too small for us to hear.
Well, it's been just great chatting with you and going back over some very interesting times. You've had a very interesting and eventful life, and congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, that is our show for today. Next Monday, we'll be back at Lansky's. Mark Graney will join us. He's got a new book out, and we'll hear all about that. So join me again.